91 Fugitives. We're tracking down one of the most ruthless gangs of lawbreakers we've ever gone after, including several of the FBI's most wanted. And we've reunited dozens of missing children with their families. Gordon Mashik thought he made a new friend in Eddie Perez. But the first day that they had plans was also the last day the police say Gordon was ever seen. Can you help us find Edgardo Luis Perez? Then this high-level drug trafficker helped an infamous prison gang destroy a small town in Georgia. It's time to get David Young behind bars where he belongs. And finally, years of tension between a man and his ex-girlfriend's son reached a tipping point and ends in murder. Now authorities need your help to locate Tejon Gill. Now, in 2001, a 56-year-old Michigan man went missing under suspicious circumstances. The day he disappeared was also the day he had planned to spend with a new friend. 19-year-old Eddie Perez, a new friend who police say happened to have a shady past. Take a look. Gordon was a soft-spoken gentleman. In 2001, Mr. Metric was a former Chrysler employee who was a designer. Gordon could work with any kind of medium. He was a creative genius. Jim was Gordon's partner. They lived together over 25 years because we went so often from their house to our house. We wore a path through the woods. Jim was in Florida to meet with the contractors in Tampa to start building their dream home. When Jim was in Florida, Gordon had called Jim and told him he was going to spend the day with an individual named Eddie. Gordon had met Eddie at the gym, and they were going to go on a bike ride together. On October 22, 2001, it had been several days since Jim heard from Gordon. He had called him numerous times, and Gordon hadn't answered the phone, which was completely out of character for him. And later, Jim received a phone call from their credit card company. They indicated there was numerous transactions that were in Mexico. I got a phone call from Jim, who was worried about Gordon. The next day, I told him that I'll go over and check it out. Gordon, and nothing seemed to be out of order, and there was no luggage missing. Gordon, Jim asked me to put in a missing person report. Jim immediately flew back to Michigan. When detectives responded to do a walkthrough, they discovered numerous things that weren't right to Jim. Jim stated a large butcher knife was missing, and detectives discovered a 6-foot piece of carpet cutout in the basement. In addition to that, they observed an antique steamer trunk was missing. Using an alternate light source and luminol, they discovered a large portion of blood present on the cement floor where the carpet had been removed. There was also heavy drag marks in the cement floor that we believe was from the steamer trunk. During an exterior search of the home, they found a tarp in the back of Gordon's van, droplets of blood on the tarp, and heavy drag marks inside the van on the carpet that are consistent with the drag marks on the cement floor. It leads detectives to believe that we have a homicide investigation. Detectives had learned from Jim that Gordon was going to spend the day with an individual named Eddie he had met at the gym. That definitely sets off alarms with detectives. There's more to this than what meets the eye. During the search of Gordon's house, detectives observed Gordon's day planner, and inside that day planner on October 20th, 2001, and the day we believe Gordon disappeared was the name Edgardo Perez with his phone number listed. And we believe Edgardo Perez is Eddie who Gordon had met at the gym. Detectives looked into Edgardo's criminal history and discovered that he was on probation for impersonating a police officer and robbery. When detectives searched Edgardo's residence, they found numerous books inside his bedroom. How to become a fugitive, how to make fake IDs, and how to steal someone's identity. After Gordon's disappearance, he called Gordon's stockbroker, and on that call he impersonated Gordon with the attempt to liquidate his stock account. Can I get your name, please? Gordon Natchak. I'm trying to liquidate a couple of positions. He was unsuccessful. Typically, when we see an identity theft today, it is a remote crime. People are accessing your computer to take over your identity and steal your finances. Mr. Perez's alleged con was essentially a very old one where they slide up next to the victim and get them to trust them and then defraud them. When detectives interviewed Edgardo's friends, they indicated that he searches out older gay men because they are easy targets to steal their money and identification. He had used Mr. Matchick's credit card to buy a flight to San Diego. He was spotted in the San Diego airport on surveillance footage. We were able to track Mr. Perez crossing over the U.S. border. The last credit card charge on Gordon's credit card was to a hotel in Tijuana, Mexico. Mexican National Police attempted to locate him, but he had already left the hotel. Mr. Perez was last seen with another male holding his hand shortly after he had arrived to Mexico. So it's believed he was likely targeting this individual. For a similar crime, someone murdered Gordon, put him in the trunk, and disposed the body, which to this day, no one knows where the body is. What I would like to see is we find Eddie Perez, and he is convicted and spends the rest of his life in prison, riding away. An ambush in an underground parking garage. In an apartment complex in North Hollywood, California, two men, one with a gun, accost this couple. The first asks the man for his watch, as the second suspect runs in, holding his arms, pushing him into the wall, and as the man resists, attempting to fight back. The first suspect robs the woman, and then returns, forcing a gun into the man's stomach. Fearing for his life, he backs down, as they take his watch and appear to empty his pocket. Police have identified one of the suspects as Deshaun Dow, a black male, 20 years old. In the past year and a half, he's been arrested 5 times for robbery and managed to post bail at each turn. They even suspect he's responsible for the same type of incident that happened before at this exact location. Let's get this guy off the street once and for all, and identify the guy he's working with. If you have any information about him or his whereabouts, call us or go to our site. Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. You know, so many out there struggle with drug addiction. And in the past few years, this country has seen the number of deaths from overdoses skyrocket. Thousands of families have been left without their loved ones and without any answers. Now, behind many of these tragic losses are massive criminal organizations with absolutely no regard for human life. And in one small town, that organization was the Ghostface Gangsters. Take a look. Brunswick is located on the coast of Georgia down at the very southeast corner. I would say it's got a lot going on for what some people view as a small town. It's known for its history dating back all the way to the beginnings of this country. It has the barrier islands and the shrimping industry. Despite Brunswick being a picturesque community, in 2020, they started to see an uptick in drug-related deaths. We really saw methamphetamine hit the streets here in Brunswick. We were responding to an increase of drug overdose calls, and just the daily call volume that we were receiving was pretty significant. Cops say one of the main reasons for the surge of drugs in their community was a regional street gang called the Ghostface Gangsters. The Ghostface Gangster Gang is a prison gang that originated out of the Georgia prisons, and they have ties to violent crimes such as murders, robberies, kidnappings, amongst other things, distributing narcotics into the communities here in Georgia. We're seeing now that the Ghostface Gangster organization, their influence is being exerted outside the prison. Their numbers are expanding into Florida, the entire state of Georgia, and Tennessee. Despite the Ghostface Gang being on the cops' radar for over 10 years in Brunswick, in December 2020, they made the arrest that would soon be a major blow to the gang's operation. We identified an individual by the name of Matthew Guest as a distributor in our area, who has ties to the Ghostface Gangster Gang. Once they had Guest's cell phone, they started to identify more members. Looking at his telephone devices, one of the things that we uncovered was that members of this organization were using Facebook Messenger to coordinate logistics of their operation. One of the key players authorities discovered in these social media transactions was Rachel Bird. Rachel Bird, the drug Queen Pin, was commonly referred to as the Ice Queen. Police say one of the gang members who brought kilos of meth from Atlanta to Brunswick was a drug mule named David Young. He had priors going back almost 20 years for everything from burglary to gun charges. Guys like David Young are violent individuals that do what they gotta do to make money and expand their territory. David Young was also known as Chaos. He was working with Rachel Bird, basically helping her set up and distribute narcotics in other cities as far as Atlanta, Georgia, and south as Jacksonville, Florida. This operation was well beyond the jurisdiction of here in Glynn County. We realized we needed to bring this to the attention of the FBI. You know, it's really incredible that the Ghostface gangsters started out as a prison gang, and within 15 years, transformed into a major player in the southeastern U.S. drug trade. Typically, in these large-scale investigations, you try to identify all the members and identify all the criminal activity that's occurring before you start arresting key members. With investigators' vast resources, and evidence uncovered through the gangs, communications authorities soon had everything they needed to start bringing the Ghostface gangsters to justice. The FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office obtained an indictment against 76 individuals for narcotics distribution, which was the largest indictment ever obtained in the Southern District of Georgia. Arrests soon followed, and up first was the Ice Queen herself, Rachel Bird. To this date, all the members that were indicted have been accounted for and arrested, except for David Young. Authorities believe that as long as David Young is at large, he could be setting up a new operation, distributing deadly narcotics and putting another community at risk. Drugs from people like David Young and the Ghostface gangster dealers unfortunately resulted in death. Rebecca Kane and Michael Logue died of overdoses, allegedly due to the Ghostface gang's operation. Their families posted their obituaries. But there was one more death linked to the gang, Dylan Jones. Dylan Jones overdosed as a result of methamphetamine. With each overdose we respond to, especially the ones that result in death, we see the pain that it causes on the immediate family. People like David Young that bring narcotics to our community need to be held accountable. We need to send a message. That bust was huge, resulting in 76 indictments of dangerous drug traffickers. But it won't be complete until we get David Young. He's a dangerous criminal with no regard for human life. Young could easily be involved with another drug trafficking operation, doing the same exact thing somewhere else right now. Take a good look at the face on your screen. David Young is 43 years old, with brown hair and brown eyes. He's 6 feet tall, and when last seen, weighed around 170 pounds. He's gone by the name Chaos in the past, and he's covered in tattoos, including the entire left side of his face. There's possibly a bird or a spider web below his left eye, a symbol above that same eye, some sort of star near his right eye, and what appears to be a child's face on the right side of his neck. Young's been on the run since December 2022, and most of his criminal activity has been in Brunswick, Georgia. But he also has ties to Jessup, Georgia, where he grew up, and Phoenix, Arizona. Young is considered armed and very dangerous. If you see him, do not approach him. And if you have any information on where he may be, please contact us immediately at 866 AMW TIPS or by visiting us at AmTips. Come, at least 2 thieves, maybe more, stealing Chevy parts in the middle of the night from an Omaha, Nebraska auto shop. It happened January 24th near 90th and Military Road. Watch as the dirtbags drive up in their white Chevy pickup and begin to strip 3 trucks of over 6,000 worth of parts. Mirrors, catalytic converters, steering columns, radios, anything they can get their scummy hands on. Look at them snooping around, loading tons of stolen parts into their truck before taking off from the scene. While we don't have a good shot of their faces, perhaps their truck looks familiar. It's a white Chevy Silverado HD extended cab long bed with some striping or possible scratches on the passenger and possibly also the driver's side of the truck. So if you recognize this truck or know someone selling Chevy parts in your area of Omaha, send us your tips. 866 AMW tips or AMTips. Come after years of constant conflict between a man and his ex-girlfriend's son. On the night of October 18th, 2022, things came to an abrupt and violent head. Let's see how it played out. Sharon, always smiling. He was a mama's baby. We were very close. He met Dottie at a club, and they was in a great relationship. And after a couple of months, he found out that she was pregnant with his son, Tony. And he was happy. After their son Tony was born, Sharon and Dottie moved in together. And he took in her son, Tejon, as his own. Years later, things changed between Dottie and Sharon. They were having problems and decided to break up. When they separated, they were still living in the same house. Sharon didn't want to leave his son, Tony. Dottie was very angry with Sharon after the breakup. There was a lot of tension in the house. Tejon seemed to grow angry toward Sharon. He loved his mother. Sharon and Tejon get in it because of Dottie. Tejon also allegedly told Sharon that his time is numbered on the evening of October 18th, 2022. We heard several pops which we immediately recognized as gunshots. One of the calls that dispatch center received was from a female who identified herself as Dorothea Ross.
I need an ambulance right now.
Come on, hurry. The officers that first arrived on scene found a male in his mid-40s, laying on the ground with several gunshot wounds. The victim's girlfriend was standing right next to him during the incident. The victim is Sharon Clark. My job was to start combing through our surveillance camera footage. Watching this incident unfold, the suspect walks up on Sharon Clark, pulls out a handgun from his waistband. The suspect fires one round. You can see Sharon Clark react and then take off running, and the suspect started chasing him, firing him as he's running away. Daddy called me and said, "Sharon has been shot." I believed that she was lying to protect her son, but when she was confronted with the evidence, she knew she had to come clean. So Dottie had told us during interviews that Tejon may have had some type of issue with the way that Sharon was treating Dottie more towards the end of their relationship. So all the anger that he had towards Sharon had finally come to a head that night. This was a deliberate attack on Sharon Clark. I want to be able to give Antoinette closure for losing her son. Sharon deserved justice. If you knew him, you would say the same thing. But first, police are on the lookout for a sneaky masked thief who's been caught on camera not once, but twice, and is still on the loose. Check out this bold guy back in August as he pries open a gas station window. He's certainly familiar with this technique, and he's got the gear to prove it. While he walks away empty-handed, it's clear that he knows exactly what he's doing and how to do it. Because the next day, he's at it again. Watch as he sneaks behind the counter at this convenience store, keeping a literal low profile as he rifles through the register, taking 2,000 from the office and around 500 taken from the cash register. Take a long, hard look at this face. Does it look familiar? If you have any information about this crime or this sneaky suspect in South Carolina, contact us right now. 866 AMW tips or at amwtips.com. 3 masked men with guns rushed the door of this home in Auburn, Washington at 2 in the morning, yelling Seattle police before violently throwing themselves into the door, attempting to kick it down. What they weren't expecting was the quick-thinking homeowner who's armed and starts firing shots back at them from inside, sending them running into the night. Police in Auburn believe it may be part of a larger crime pattern targeting Asian families in the area. They've made one arrest, Devontae Leach, here in the black hoodie, but the other 2 scumbags are still at large. We really need your help to identify and track them down. Take a good look. 2 black males, one in their 20s or 30s, at least 6 feet tall. If you have any information, call us or go to our site immediately. Let's take one last look at the fugitives we need your help to find. Remember, we can't do this without you. So if you have any tips about the cases you saw tonight, please do the right thing and call us now. Edgardo A.K.A. Eddie Luis Perez is wanted for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution for felony murder. He's 41 years old, with black hair and brown eyes. He's 5 feet 6 inches when last seen, about 140 to 160 pounds. Authorities say he likes to work out and may belong to a gym. His last known location was Tijuana, Mexico, and he's fluent in Spanish, and is very skilled at charming his victims before stealing their identities. David Young is 43 years old, 6 feet tall, and the left side of his face is covered in tattoos. There's possibly a bird or spider web below his left eye, a symbol above that same eye, and some sort of star near his right eye, and what appears to be a child's face on the right side of his neck. He's got brown hair and brown eyes, and weighed about 170 pounds the last time anyone saw him. He's considered armed and very dangerous. He's wanted for conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute and to distribute a controlled substance. Tajan Gill is 6 feet 2 inches, and when last seen, weighed around 150 pounds. He's 22 years old with black hair and brown eyes. He's wanted for first-degree murder. Authorities say that while he had locks, the last time he was seen is likely he has changed his appearance. If you see any of these fugitives, don't approach them. Call us at 866-AMW-TIPS or go to amwtips.com.